until the end with Mussolini, that wasn't necessarily a bad thing. I think we have, when you add people looking for a savior, when you add people looking for somebody can save us and has the answer, you can easily go to somebody who's a sex symbol, who's good, good looking, great communicator, etc., not really listen to what they're doing. Let me go to Robert Lately. I want to bring in this parallel here on. Robert, let's look at some of the stresses that had in Russia that we're seeing now that I think are real parallels that I've read in your book that I find striking. For instance, the Eat the Rich movement, the using of classes to tear a nation apart and pit neighbor against neighbor. Can you give some of the... Go ahead.
Well, the Russian Revolution came at the end of a disastrous First World War, and the people were hungry, and there was a great desire to get out of the war. Lenin came back to Russia from brought there by the Germans, incidentally, to try to bring about a revolution, and he did it cunningly by offering poor peasants land, people bread, and the army peace. And with those three slogans, he managed to attain rather quickly and easily victory for the Bolshevik Revolution in October, in old style, October 1917. Now, what happened after that, of course, is that there was a war in the countryside, and basically he promised the land to the poor peasants who were then invited to take land from the churches, from the nobility, the better off, and what they did, of course, was think actually the communists were going to let them keep the land. So they became firm backers of the Russian Revolution, the poor peasants believing that now the land that they felt was rightly theirs for so long now was theirs finally to keep. But of course, that was complete illusion, and within no time at all, the situation went from bad to worse. Okay, so just think what would happen if you drove out the best farmers, you kill off the best farmers. What do you think is going to happen next? What happens next is
starvation.
A famine.
Yeah, and that's exactly what happened. Exactly. And I see this parallel with AIG and then the bankers and everything else. Hate them. They did this to you. You got to get that. Kill them off, put them in jail, take their money, do whatever. Who's going to run these things? They have expertise that most don't. Let me go to Amity. Do you have any or anybody, is anybody watching the news today and seeing things that don't have to repeat? We don't have to repeat the past. But when you, as a historian, and you know history, don't you look at today and go, wait. Everybody knows what we're doing, right? Everybody's aware this is dangerous territory that we're walking down.
Yes, Glenn, there's a variant of what you said before. Politicians who can't remember the past condemn the rest of us to repeat it.
Right.
And so you get a feeling in Washington, they haven't thought about what government can do before. I prefer to call it statism, the ever-expanding state, what we're talking about, which then corrupts, which then sometimes leads to war. And yes, I see when we look at companies and blame them, no good outcome, because those companies are also often the source of our prosperity and our return to prosperity. So you can be mad at certain AIG executives that they didn't forego their bonus, or that they were too lawyerly in writing it all out this winter and tricking people with Congress. And yes, there are bad people at all companies, but if we blame AIG, we also hurt a lot of other companies. If we blame bonuses, we hurt those who will carry our recovery.
Right. We're going to a place, RJ, that a lot of people say that America could never go down this road. Never, ever go down this road. Most people don't. I didn't either until I really started reading everybody's books here, everybody involved. We've already been down this road, and we're going to get into that a little bit later, but I want to ask you, the turning point seems to be a guy that everybody, so many people say, oh, Teddy Roosevelt, he was fantastic. But he captured the Republicans where Woodrow Wilson and FDR captured the Democrats for this progressive movement and took us fundamentally off the tracks that our founders had built and moved us into another direction. true or false, and can you explain?
Yeah, I think that's very true, and you have to remember TR, the great difficulty with TR is he's just such a likable fellow, and he's a great American character. Many people who consider themselves to be conservative and patriotic are attracted to his military heroism. This is a guy, you know, who of course was shot giving a speech in 1912 and insisted on staying for the full 90 minutes and finishing his speech. It's hard not to be attracted to a guy like that. You know, the problem is that TR, as you said, was an ardent progressive in his understanding of government. Just to give you a couple examples, in the New Nationalism speech that he gave in 1910, which sort of set the theme for his later run again at the presidency, TR was very clear. He said that the national government must be able to sit in judgment of the earning of private wealth. The national government must be able to sit in judgment of how private wealth is used. Later in his autobiography, he talked about what we've called the stewardship theory. And what he said there was that the national government, and that the executive branch of it in particular, has to be the steward of the people, the steward of their needs, and has to understand that its role is to respond to any need that the government perceives they have.
The interesting thing, because I was reading your book last week, and actually the one on American progressivism, which is just fantastic. And I'm reading it, and I'm reading the words of Teddy Roosevelt and how they viewed the President of the United States, that he had the power of the people. He was the one. He should have this cleared out power to be able to respond in a democratic fashion. Democracy, not republic, democracy. Have the people behind him. It was like 2 days later that I read that, you know, Obama had fired one of the CEOs over at General Motors. But Michael Moore posted and said, people are saying, what can we do about it? Nothing. You can't stop him because Obama has the power of the people, and we have given him the right to do whatever he sees fit. And I thought, that's it. Progressive fascism. It's here. Okay, back in just a second.
The post-Hispanic, in my opinion, is over.
The piracy problem. What's the plan?